What is one small financial task that you've been avoiding that you could gently spend 10 minutes with this week?
Welcome to Breaking Financial Chains, where we combine practical money guidance with emotional healing to help you break free from financial limitations. I'm Tanya Riverson, your financial wingwoman.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Breaking Financial Chains. I am so happy that you're here. Today's episode is about financial avoidance. Might be something that we're familiar with, maybe something that we're not wanting to acknowledge, but hey, come and join me, have a listen, and let's see where we go. So when we talk about financial avoidance, this isn't something to hit yourself over the head with. I use this phrase a lot. This is to help highlight for you why you're not lazy. This has got nothing to do with avoiding it because you can't be asked. This is because you're activated, okay? You're not lazy, you're activated, and therefore there are a number of consequences and repercussions that then come out of that. So the theme for today is around money psychology, nervous system responses, and compassionate financial awareness. We are all about the compassion, listeners. So the thing that people don't like to admit, but you probably recognise in those quiet moments for yourself, are the things that we perhaps should, and I hate using this word, should. Those of you that can see me on YouTube, you see I'm waggling my fingers. I'm putting a little inverted commas in here when I say should. We know we probably should do financially things such as check the bank balance, opening that banking app every once in a while, opening that letter that comes from the bank, and we know it comes from the bank because their logo is printed on the outside of the envelope more often than not. Reviewing that credit card statement, just taking a look, logging in, where's the money gone? You can see the payment go out of the bank to cover it. Where has that amount come from? Looking at a pension statement. This is going to be coming up this time of year. When was the last time you opened that statement or logged in online to take a look at the position or what your financial projections are? Dealing with a financial admin task. People don't like to admit it. We avoid things like this. Instead, we delay it. We're not going to do it. We're just not doing it now. And days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months. And then we have that internal voice that's usually saying things along the lines of, why am I like this? God, I first wrote on my to-do list, check pension statements in March. It's now August and I can't even find my login details. The voice might say, I know better than this. Or I just need to get my act together, because it is just as simple as just doing the thing. But the truth is, most financial avoidance isn't laziness, it's activation. It's related to our nervous system and the emotional part of our brain. So in order to convince you, because I'm sensing that some of you might need a little bit of this, I'm going to explain what financial avoidance actually is. So what happens when we are avoiding dealing with financial issues, situations, tasks? When money related tasks trigger stress or emotional discomfort, we subconsciously avoid them. Our brain labels these things as not safe because of learnt behaviour, because of conditioning, because of past trauma and triggers. That might show up by ignoring those banking apps, delaying financial decisions, avoiding conversations about money, a favourite, leaving tax or admin tasks until the last minute, 30th of January, anybody, for filing a tax return, or even the 31st of January. True deadline dancers when it comes to filing your self-assessment tax return. It might look like not opening letters or emails about finances, or just filing them away, because when you have those admin days, you'll read them later, right? And we never do. And that behaviour often feels irrational, but it's actually a protective response from the nervous system. Our brain has got this great big red flashing light shouting internally, this is not safe, abort, 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 do something else instead, like defrost the freezer or tackle the ironing pile or something else. All of a sudden something else feels more urgent or important. Tell me I'm wrong. What is your go-to procrastination task? For me, it's sorting the fridge and or freezer and or the ironing, because those things are all of a sudden absolutely vital to have those items of clothing that I can access. But the truth is that money triggers our brain, and money touches some of the most deepest emotional wiring that we hold on to, because it relates to such basic needs and human instincts. It relates to survival, it relates to security, independence, identity and self-worth. We hang so much on those feelings, and if money can trigger that reaction in us, it is of no surprise that we might avoid dealing with something which fundamentally feels so unsafe. And that might be you if you've experienced any one of some of these examples at some point in your life. Experiencing things such as financial stress growing up, witnessing stressful situations in your household via your parents, or through situations such as divorce or unemployment or redundancy of a parent, which could lead to instability in the household. It's the very foundations of what is meant to be safe. If that doesn't feel safe, that can be transferred into how we deal with money, because money is deemed to be something that causes all the problems and would solve all the problems if we had it. If you've experienced any criticism around money or any debt anxiety, and also if you've experienced financial control in relationships, we can question our worth when it comes to dealing with money. And what happens is that your brain then may associate money with threat or shame. And when that happens, when that financial task appears, the nervous system then interprets that directly as danger. Red light, flashing lights, avoid, abort. Avoidance therefore becomes the way to reduce immediate stress. That might be when we turn to burnout spending, or we pour a glass of wine to help regulate our nervous system, or any other supposed unhealthy coping strategies that we might have learnt to lean on. And what happens is that we end up falling into an avoidance loop that then perpetuates that behaviour, because we find it very difficult to get out of something when it becomes a pattern. So financial avoidance often follows a very predictable cycle, but we can't see when we're in it, because we just can't, because our emotional brain is running the show. We have lost access to our prefrontal cortex at this point. We have lost all logical thought. We are in the eye of the storm when this happens, as far as our nervous system and our brain is concerned. So the financial task appears, the brain registers stress, the avoidance happens, hello, plugging in the iron, which gives us temporary relief because that needed doing. That was so important. I have a sense of achievement. I have ticked something off the list. I have not completely wasted my time. But then the task is still there. It's still undone. It still needs attention, and it becomes bigger in your mind. This is the sort of thing that wakes you up like a bolt of lightning at 2 a.m. because you didn't do it, and you've not done it, and it's still on the list, and it still needs to be tackled, which then means that the stress and the shame increases. And then we start again. And then that task reappears, and we sit and look at our to-do list, and we just end up on that merry-go-round of a loop. And the longer something is avoided, the more overwhelming it feels. Because if it was easy, we would have done it by now, right? But we haven't done it because it's not easy. It requires a huge amount of space clearing to be able to tackle it. You've got to find login details, and you've got to create absolute quiet to concentrate, and on it goes. So the cycle then essentially reinforces itself. And this isn't just restricted to certain people or certain types of individuals that do this. Smart and very capable people still avoid money tasks. Financial avoidance is extremely common among capable people because they're often already carrying a lot of responsibility elsewhere in life, whether that's family, extended family, business, employment, all of the things. They're already mentally overloaded, and the money responsibility, those tasks, are adding to that load. They are quite often very highly capable and therefore perhaps are quite fearful of maybe making the wrong financial decision, so it's easier to do nothing. And they also hold themselves to very high standards. So it is safer to avoid rather than get something wrong or make a mistake or open ourselves up to some sort of imaginary criticism, which is often the reality, although it doesn't feel like that at the time. And when perfection feels required, the brain will choose avoidance, full stop, rather than imperfect action. So what we need to do is first become aware that this is something that's happening. If those financial tasks keep becoming that loop, that's going to keep becoming your perpetual future unless we do something different. So we have to break that avoidance pattern. Calmly, lovingly, safely, you can do this. The key is not forcing yourself through fear. Because if you've got some sort of trauma in your brain that you're carrying with you, it is not especially helpful to force yourself into some sort of plunging you in at the deep end activity. So the key is reducing the emotional threat around money tasks rather than forcing yourself to do it anyway, because that can actually make things worse. So some helpful strategies that you might find useful: maybe make a list, write some of these down, give a couple of them a go and just see how it goes. We need to first of all make the task tiny. This needs to be a few seconds or a very short number of minutes task, just to break the ice. So instead of, I am going to sort my finances out in the next 15 minutes, we're going to start simply with opening the banking app, looking at one account or looking at one statement and then coming back out. It might be before you even get to that point that we're just going to check that you know what your login details are. We're going to check that you've got your password securely stored somewhere, and then the answers to any of the security questions that you're going to get asked when you log in. Rather than allowing that to be the problem, first task, sort your access, and then the next time you're dealing with a financial task, then we're just going to open the app, take a look, maybe look at a week's spending or a week's income, and then come back out. Another suggestion is to change the environment in which you're carrying out these tasks. So quite often, if you're forced into, must make a decision, must make a purchase, must transfer that money right now because I'm on the deadline, we're in reactionary mode, we're not feeling in control, we're feeling pushed and pressured into something. So we want to try and take some of the sting and the flare up out of that situation. And by changing the environment, we can create calm around the task instead. So making a little bit of space, perhaps sandwiching that task between things that you do like to do. So sit somewhere comfortable, make yourself a cup of tea or coffee, grab a biscuit, why not? Take a few slow breaths, then deal with the task. Because it's only going to take us a minute anyway. Literally, you can set a timer for 60 seconds. I'm going to look at the spending on that credit card, and then I'm going to come back out, and then I'm going to finish my tea and just sit with my feelings. What has come up for you during that exercise? And time boxing it all together, whether that's a calm environment, whether that's wherever you happen to do it. You might have dropped the kids off at sports activities and you're sitting in the car, or you're sat on the viewing balcony at the swimming pool. which is where I spend what feels like half of my free time. Give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever that might look like for you, and then get on with what else you wanted to do during that time, whether that's scrolling on Instagram, Duolingo, reading, whatever it might be. Give yourself a limit on time, because those small actions will start to rebuild your confidence. This is not about going from 0 to 60 straight away and becoming a Yoda when it comes to your personal finances. This is about flexing your financial muscles to start to show your brain, I am safe when I do these activities. And when you say you're only going to do it for 5 minutes, actually stick to 5 minutes, because this is about keeping promises to yourself as well. And if the first time you go in, you end up stressing and you're in there for 45 minutes, the next time you need to go back in, you're going to have reinforced messaging saying, yeah, but you said 5 minutes the last time and you sat in there for 45 minutes. No way I'm going to do that now. So set the boundary for yourself. Know that you are worth sticking to that boundary, and then fulfill that promise. When we start to flex our muscles like that and do those small tasks to rebuild confidence, we can start to build a new way to think about money engagement. Because this isn't about needing to fix everything in one go in the next 15 minutes, because my whole financial life depends on it, because that's just not true. So instead of saying, I need to fix this, try thinking, I'm just staying in the room with my money for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for however long you set for yourself. Because consistency matters more than intensity. Those 5 minutes every day, those 15 minutes twice a week is what's important, because you're setting the stall for your brain to know what the parameters are, what the boundaries are around this task, and we can cope with that, and then we build from there. Because every small amount of engagement, again, starts to rebuild the trust. So this is all about nervous system regulation at the end of the day. And when we make promises to our kids, to our other half, to family members, to clients, to employees, to subordinates, it's just as important that we make and keep those same promises to ourselves. We're just as worthy. And what we want to happen is to build compassion instead of self-criticism. We often put ourselves at the bottom of the to-do list because everybody else, it feels, shouts louder. Well, do you know what, listeners? Let's start shouting louder for ourselves. Shame makes financial avoidance so much worse, and compassion can help to break that cycle. Being kind to yourself, making your environment nice, making a bit of a ritual out of your time that you're spending on your money. Build money dates into your diary, light the candle, make yourself your favourite drink, whatever that looks like to you, burn some incense, whatever it is. Build that up to be something you might actually see yourself looking forward to at some point in the future. Because we also need to remind ourselves, especially if you've never done this before, that you're learning. You're learning yourself. And if you're asking your children or loved ones to do this same task, that self-criticism, those things that you're saying to yourself, would you say that to your children if they were learning something for the first time? Be honest, would you? Because we need to show that same compassion to ourselves. You're allowed to feel uncomfortable. That is completely normal. But progress happens through small steps. You don't need to do everything today. We just want to make a plan and we want to make a start. You just need to start showing up to your finances again. That's all that this is. It's a starting point. And a little pat on the back, and maybe do some journaling around what feelings came up for you, what felt uncomfortable, why did it feel hard? Because you can do this. We just have to be compassionate. We have to take the small steps. We have to allow ourselves the space to learn. Because financial avoidance does not mean you're lazy or irresponsible. It often means that your nervous system has learnt that money is stressful. That's it. Completely normal, a completely rational human response to that realisation. But when you approach your finances with curiosity, with patience, with small, manageable steps, that activation begins to soften, and over time your money becomes something you can engage with calmly instead of something that you feel the need to escape. So I'd like to pose a reflective question to you, see how this lands and what you think. What is one small financial task that you've been avoiding that you could gently spend 10 minutes with this week? And if you do that, if you carry out that exercise, I'd love to hear about it. So please do get in touch. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for joining me today on Breaking Financial Chains. Remember, you have the power to transform your relationship with money one step at a time. If this episode helped you, please subscribe and leave a review to help others find their path to financial freedom. I'm Tanya, your financial wing woman, and I'll see you next week.